We're live and ready when you are, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Seldovia City Council, Monday, January 22nd, 2024. Time is exactly 6 p.m. And we'll go ahead and do roll call. Bart.
Here.
Rojas is excused tonight. Kennedy. Here. Swick.
Here.
Peyton.
Here.
And Keithley.
Here.
Okay, we have 5 members present. We do have a quorum with 1 excused absence. That will be Member Rojas. Okay, if you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. And item C, as we stated, excused absences. We have 1, that's Member Rojas. We'll look for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I move to approve tonight's agenda. Second.
Okay, a motion to approve tonight's agenda by Keithley with a second by Peyton. Any further discussion on tonight's agenda before we vote? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the approval of tonight's agenda. All those in favor, Langbart?
Aye.
Kennedy? Aye. Swick?
Aye.
Peyton?
Aye.
Keithley?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes with 5 in the affirmative and 1 excused. Okay, item E, consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are approved with a single motion, no discussion, and 1 vote. A council member may request to remove any item for discussion and a separate vote. Items removed from the consent agenda will be placed under new business. Tonight's consent agenda consists of approval of minutes of the regular meeting, December 11th, 2023. That's found on page 5 of your packet. Item 2 is we have 1 ordinance for introduction. That's ordinance 24-05, a non-code ordinance of the City Council of the City of Seldovia, amending the fiscal year 2024 operating budget by appropriating $30,900 from the general fund ending fund balance to the Seldovia Permanent Fund for the repayment of the Seldovia Gateway Kiosk project. And that is also recommended for public hearing on February 12th. That's found on page 9 of your packet. So those are the 2 items we have tonight on our consent agenda. Does any member wish to remove any item to discuss separately? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and look for a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
Mayor Campbell.
Yep,
I'll
go
make
ahead,
a
Joe.
motion to approve tonight's consent agenda as read.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion by Kennedy to approve tonight's consent agenda with a second by Keithley. Any further discussion on the consent agenda before we vote? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the approval of tonight's consent agenda. All those in favor, Langbart?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Swick?
Aye.
Peyton?
Aye.
Keithley?
Aye.
Okay, we have 5 in the affirmative with 1 absent. Motion is approved. That was item E, the consent agenda. Item F, mayoral proclamations. We have none tonight. Item G, public presentations prior notice. We do have Representative Sarah Vance with the Alaska State Legislature. And I see she is on the line here for a legislative update. Representative Vance, can you hear us?
Hello.
Hello, there you are. How are you tonight?
Active participant here.
Good, good to see you.
Well, I'm going to start out by just giving a brief overview. Thank you so much for having me. I know that there's been a lot going on. We are now in day 7 of the legislative session, so I am excited to be representing you here. There's already been a lot of movement, but I just want to give you a brief update of what it is that I've introduced as a priority, and then talk about some of the things that are going on in the legislature right now. If you follow my Facebook page or receive my newsletter, then you'd see that I submit some legislative priorities. I have been working on election integrity for a number of years now, and I have moved on House Bill 129 that cleans up our voter rolls. It provides the Division of Elections some direction to regularly update those and be able to provide notices to the public in a timely manner. That is in House rules, and I'm gathering votes to be able to pass that on the House floor to get it to the Senate. It is one that I'm real hopeful about that we can do this session as a really great first step to be able to address some of the concerns by the public around our election integrity. The next is I have moved on House Bill 4, which is to repeal ranked choice voting. There was a new study that came out by Princeton University that specifically looked at how ranked choice voting impacts minorities. They looked at New York City and the Black community, and they looked at the Alaskan Natives, and have come to the conclusion that Alaskan Native votes were disproportionately they ran into ballot exhaustion, meaning they did not their votes weren't counted ultimately in the end in the process because they didn't use all of the they didn't vote all the way down the ballot in ranked choice voting. And so I highlight that right now because I know there's been a lot of controversy around ranked choice voting, but that was a mandate given by our district, and there's been polling done that says Alaskans have buyer's remorse. So I want to make it clear that I'm not trying to override the will of the people, but do exactly what our district mandated me to do. So that is now in House Finance for them to consider. But I want us to continue to have a further conversation about ranked choice voting, the impacts that it has on minorities, our seniors, and those who don't have English as a first language, because I think it's imperative that that they feel that their voice counts. So a lot of different things going on with election integrity. It's very important to me, but I want to make sure that every voice is heard in this. And I have other bills that are kind of bite-sized pieces in the election reform, but those were the two that I'm focusing on at this time. I have my school healthcare consolidation bill that I've mentioned previously. It is in House Finance, and this allows school districts and municipalities the opportunity to optionally participate in the state's healthcare program. We asked for an actuarial from the Department of Administration to tell us if the numbers will actually pan out. And we have those numbers back that House Finance is taking a look at, and we're hoping to have more movement on that bill to look at that so that our school districts will have options and reduce some of the pressure on the education budget. It doesn't seem to be a piece that they can move at this time because we want to make sure that we get it right when it comes to people's health care. But that is something that I have wanted to do for a number of years because it saves our families and our teachers money, and it reduces the pressure on that school healthcare budget, as I previously mentioned. I am working on a mariculture leases bill. We have quite a few mariculture growers in Kachemak Bay, and the Alaska Maricultures Association has been talking to me about reforming their leases so that they can continue business easier. And that is still in draft form, but if you have anyone who is interested in taking a look at that, please let me know because I want as much insight going into that as possible. Last year, a carbon bill was passed that allows businesses to lease land for carbon sequestration. And I want to make sure that our tideland leases are still available for mariculture growers. So I'm having conversations with DNR on the impacts of that previous legislation and how that will impact our mariculture growers, because I feel that they should have a first priority to that and not be exclusively used for carbon. So I wear a fisheries chairman hat that I'm working on our fisheries issues in a very big way. I'm very passionate about that. I have a lot more that I'm going to be doing in that, and I'm working with Representative Stutz, who was previously your representative, because them being part of our Senate district, we align very closely on coastal issues. So I'm continuing to get her insight on some of the fish issues, and as well as the marine highway system. Some of the other bills that I've introduced that are important to our district is extending the senior benefits payment program. That was supposed to expire this summer, and I've introduced a piece of legislation to extend that for another 10 years. It is based upon need, and I would like to continue to honor our seniors and fulfill the commitment that I gave many years ago when I was running for the first time. I said that I would continue to protect our seniors. And we have in our district a third of our residents are seniors. And so I know this is something that's very important for those seniors in need, because it comes down to helping them buy groceries and medical care. If you want more information about the senior benefits program, you can find that on the Department of Health's website, and they have the income qualifications for that. I am hopeful that that piece of legislation will get through, because there is a companion bill in the Senate. So both bodies will be moving on that legislation at the same time. I have introduced a panel of human trafficking legislation and bills that will help protect our children. So if you take a look at my representative page, I have one that establishes the Council on Human and Sex Trafficking. I have a bill that screens all of the children that come into our system, whether that's foster care, runaways for exploitation. I have a bill that updates the terms of child pornography to read child sexual exploitation, that really defines what it is. And then an age verification for porn sites, knowing that a lot of our youth are accessing pornography more, and we're seeing in our schools, and it's relaying to bullying, a lot of different content and things that is more of an adult conversation. And this would simply require an age verification for anyone who wants to enter one of those sites, so that it keeps our children away from that content until age appropriate. So those are just some of the bills. There are obviously bigger conversations going on in the legislature right now that I imagine many of you want to talk about. And then after I give you an update on that, I will open up for questions. So right now we have Senate Bill 140, and I'm going to scroll to the highlights here so I don't want to miss anything. And this is an education bill that will be on the House floor on Wednesday, where we will be taking up amendments. The House Rules Committee just had 7 hours of public testimony on Saturday with the changes to this bill. So instead of a single increase to the BSA, we're looking at a more comprehensive education package. We're doing a $300 increase to the BSA that's inside the formula. It's the largest increase in more than a decade. We're adding the teacher incentive programs that offer bonuses to teachers that the governor originally proposed, so that teachers can get an increase in that pay as well. Charter school and correspondence support, deaf and hard of hearing support for children who have not been supported in the classroom. This opens it up so that they can have an interpreter, or maybe the things that they need to be able to continue to have success in the classroom. increasing school transportation funding. This is something that I mentioned to my caucus was a priority. Our school district had mentioned that an increase to the BSA is obviously very needed, but not to neglect transportation, because just like the rest of us, the price of gas has gone up greatly at the pump, and it is the same for them. And they are seeing the increase in cost of just busing our kids to school. So we can have all these conversations around helping in the classroom, but it doesn't make any difference if we can't get our children to the classroom. So we have increased transportation funding. And then finally, the original intent of the bill was the increased internet speed across rural schools. So we are very well aware that our school districts are on a timeline to be able to get federal funding for the increased internet speed. So we are prioritizing this education conversation right out of the gate, because we know that it's very important to the school districts. We need to have this solution now instead of waiting till the very end. And we're hoping to have this solution wrapped up this week. So I imagine we will be taking up amendments on the House floor on Wednesday, and it will come to a final vote very likely on Friday, and where it will then go to the Senate for an up or down vote. So if the Senate agrees and says, yes, this is acceptable the way it is, then they simply say yes, and it will be transmitted to the governor to become law. If they say no, it would then go to conference committee, where the conference appointees would then be able to talk about the differences in the bill and have further negotiations. So right now, we're just hearing from the public and any feedback and changes, but we're hoping that this is a comprehensive plan that we can all agree on and move forward, because as you know, the conversation in the education community has been that they have not received an increase to the formula in more than a decade. And the legislature has continued to do one-time funding, but nothing inside the formula that would go forward in perpetuity. So this is a high priority of ours that we've decided, instead of continuing to just go back and forth and try to figure out things in the budget, we're saying this is important. And we're trying to work within a framework within the budget, because there are other high priorities like energy that definitely need addressed, since those of us on the peninsula under HEA have seen an increase in our energy cost because of leases coming up with natural gas. That is a high priority, but it is tied to the conversation around education, because we know for many rural communities, much like Seldovia, your cost of energy for the school is very high. So just please know that the legislature hears you. We are bringing all of these conversations together, while on face value, schools and energy seem to be two very different conversations. They are linked, because we're finally dissecting the problems, the issues that communities are facing. And for some communities, just the energy cost for a school is $30,000 a month just to heat. And until the legislature takes a look at how we can solve that problem, our costs for education are only going to continue to grow, and that's not addressing the needs in the classroom or with teachers. So a lot of different pieces. We are trying to do our best to find solutions and listen to the people, listen to parents and the needs that they have, and the teachers and everyone involved. That's why we're doing a comprehensive package, so that we're not just looking at increasing the base student allocation, but really trying to address all of the needs that we hear in our communities. I say all lightly, but I know I've given you a lot of information all at one time. I apologize. There's been so many things going on, and we've only been in session a week. So I will now open it up for questions and do the best that I can to answer whatever you have.
Yeah, thank you, Representative Vance. I appreciate the added detail on the education piece there. I know that's been front and center here all around the state here. And I caught a bit of the testimony, just bits and pieces on the news there. Obviously that some of that was fairly heated. Not a lot of different opinions on what should be passed here and what shouldn't be. So I do like the idea that the package is comprehensive and we're not just getting hung up on a simple up or down on the BSA. So yeah, no, that I think you guys have got some work to do, and we'll see how it goes here, what the final product is, and hopefully there's some bipartisan support to get it through both houses and then on to the governor. So we'll go and open it up here to see if anyone's got any additional questions, comments for Representative Vance.
Mayor Campbell.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Hi, John.
I was curious if there's anything in that bill to maybe any kind of incentives for rural teachers and administrators for them to stay instead of, I know we're having trouble getting employees all over the country, but it's particularly bad for us here, to get them to stay in these remote communities. I just wondered if there was anything there. And yeah, cost of living, that type of stuff.
Thanks, John. I believe that the teacher bonuses is designed to help with that. And there are 3 different tiers. I think it's $5,000, $10,000, and $15,000 hiring bonuses for teachers, depending on the region. So I think, as far as I know, that was proposed to help incentivize the teachers for rural communities, because it is a challenge. And I know that housing has been one of the bigger challenges with that. I don't believe that piece is being addressed in here at this time. I don't think anyone has come up with really a statewide solution to that. I know that last year in the governor's budget, he did have some funding mechanism for some state housing in rural communities that would kind of address some of the public safety housing as well as teacher housing. But I have not heard of a solution directly dealing with retaining. But so I know there's kind of multiple pieces to that. The one that is in this particular bill is the teacher bonuses.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else with additional questions, comments for Representative Vance tonight? Yeah, absolutely.
Representative Vance.
Yep, there we go.
Hi, Representative Vance. My name is Mike Druce, and I'm actually the interim principal here at Seldovia. And I just wanted some clarification on the bonuses. I think you said 5, 10, and 15.
I believe so. And I'm trying, don't quote me on it. Let me pull up the bill. But go ahead with your question.
Yes. So the question is, so in terms of the bonus, what provisions are attached to that? I mean, is there a longevity expectation with that? In other words, more than 1 year. Somebody coming for the Alaska experience, they move here, they get their bonus, they're here for a year and then take off.
Okay, great question. I've pulled up the bill, and for your reference, if you go on our Alaska Leg website, you can look up SB 140. It's not posted yet. It's in the documents folder. So until we have it on the House floor, it may not show up yet. But the language says is entitled to receive a lump sum payment as a retention and recruitment incentive on or within a reasonable period after July 1, 2024, 25, and 26, if the teacher was employed in a full-time classroom teaching position for the entirety of the school term for the school year immediately preceding the day of payment. So it says that the Department of Education shall reduce the retention and recruitment incentive by the amount necessary to pay mandatory employee and employer reductions. And then it has more after that. So at face value, what I'm seeing is that At this time, it doesn't have a whole lot of contingency around it. It says that they have to apply during an eligible calendar year. I'm not seeing a lot of other restrictions beyond that.
Okay. And one more question, and I don't believe you touched on this. Anything in terms of teacher retirement, getting back to the defined benefit?
That is not included in this bill. I know that that bill is in the Senate regarding defined benefits. The conversations that I've heard is that people are asking how we're going to pay for it. At this point, it would seem unattainable to actually pay for that. And that's why years ago, the state moved away from the defined benefits. There have been conversations about a defined contribution and whether or not the excluding the teachers from receiving Social Security benefits was a good idea. But I don't know the movement at this time, simply because I'm not on finance committee.
Right.
So I apologize, I don't have more details on that.
Understood. And yes, and that that windfall, again, regarding Social Security, that's where I live because I'm a retired teacher who's come back in. So yeah, that's a personal concern of mine. But I do think the retirement piece is very, very important, and I do understand the cost of it. That makes perfect sense to me. But that is one of the reasons that we frequently hear with younger teachers who move in, they come for a short time, and then when they start looking at the retirement piece, it really is not workable for them. So I would certainly, encourage the legislature to look at that component. But again, I also appreciate the cost factor involved. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for your interim service. I know that that Seldovia School has had a lot of challenges, but I hope that with some positive changes, the families are really feeling supported and the teachers, and I really appreciate you being there because it's so necessary.
Well, thank you. It's a cool school. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the comments and the dialogue. Absolutely. Anyone else? Did we have anyone else from the public that was signed up prior?
No, Mr. Mayor, we don't have anybody that signed up.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, going once, twice. Anyone else on council? All right. Well, sounds good. Representative Vance, thank you for joining us tonight, giving us the update. I know you guys have a ton of work to do down there. You've started fast right out of the gate here. So I'm sure you got a lot more to do here for homework tonight. So thanks again for spending a little bit of time with us. And we look forward to the next update, and we'll stay tuned on what's going on down there in Juneau.
Thank you so much. And as always, feel free to reach out to my office. Liz has been great in keeping us updated and make sure that we can get our schedules aligned. But any questions, whatever you need, please reach out.
All right, we will. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thanks.
All right, well, we got a little information there. Obviously, we've got a resolution tonight supporting the education bill down there and some sort of meaningful increase. So it's good to get the update. Appreciate your comments on that. Yep, absolutely. I think that's what they need down there is good good input from people that are in the trenches. So it can give them meaningful input. So all right, let's go on to, let's see, item H, public presentation for items not on the agenda. Did we have anyone signed up for that?
Yeah, we have nobody signed up online.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, item I, committee and advisory board reports. I don't think we had anyone tonight on item I. Item J, administrative reports. These are our quarterly reports tonight, and we'll start with finance, and I see Jan's on the line.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Yeah, we got you loud and clear, Jan.
I think I'm actually required to ask that question, I believe. So you've got the written report as usual, as well as the two spreadsheets. Just the usual reminder that the spreadsheet that is the cash basis is done for our DEC requirements. The accrual basis is the one that our auditors and our systems actually look at. I have to start off with an apology. I noticed on the written report that I missed a couple spots, the total for the AMLIP as well as the total interest earned. Obviously, the total for the AMLIP you can get from summing the different funds, but you should not have to do that math yourself. So apologies for that. And because I am at home, I cannot pull up those numbers. I can tell you that the interest on the AMLIP funds continues to run considerably ahead of what we saw the last few years before interest rates started to go up. And noticed in specifically, if you look at the Lake Susan Access Fund that has about $1,500 in it, the interest on that in the last month was about $6.50 or so, which is what we used to see on the entire fund before we moved the $500,000 to Charles Schwab on a monthly basis. So there has been, as I said, quite a significant improvement in the interest rates, which is nice to see. You can also see the Charles Schwab amount gained. Looks like about 8% over month over month, and so we've seen a nice return on that. And then you can also see the Wells Fargo. That again, we're seeing just a much higher average balance there than we saw the last few years, and so that's nice to see. Looking at the general fund, we're at 89% of revenues, about 50% of expenditures. Part of that, of course, is the savings with the police department. But generally, we're doing pretty well in our expenses. We're about where we intended to be. The only one that's running significantly ahead, or the two, are probably the multipurpose building, where there's been some repairs there, and also some higher energy bills, and then the public works. And the public works is a little bit artificially inflated because of the grader payment that went through in December, for $51,000. And so obviously that is a significant chunk. That's what is that, about 20% of the overall total was that grader payment. So if you set that aside, Public Works is also doing pretty well in terms of staying within the budget for the year. Well, they are within the budget, but staying within where we'd like expenses to be this time of year. If you look at the general fund as a whole, at the moment on the accrual basis, we're seeing a net positive of about $324,000, and so that's nice to see. If you look at the special revenue funds, they're a little bit different, but nothing real surprising. Water and sewer are both in the positive. The dock is running about $5,000 in the negative, but of course that's including the January expenses, and we have not done any billing out. So we expect to see the dock running behind. It's a little bit thrown off because we only bill quarterly for that instead of monthly like we do for everything else. I do anticipate the dock is going to have possibly a few challenges in terms of possibly finishing a little bit behind for the year, but it's really a guesstimate at this time. It really depends on what the ferry schedule looks like for the rest of the year. And of course, right now they've not posted that. The other ones that we see running in the negative are the harbor, $35,000. But again, we anticipate that because we know that the majority of the harbor revenue comes through the annual morages, which aren't billed out until the end of February. So by the time we have the next quarterly report, we'll probably see a significant change in that number. I expect it's going to be back in the black. And then the other one that's running in the negative is senior meals. And it's kind of like the dock, where we have expenses monthly, but we only see our real revenues come, in this case, in the form of grant funding. We only see that quarterly because we, of course, bill that out to the state quarterly. So I expect that will turn around as well. I guess that's the main thing I have to say about the different notes. I believe City Manager Gagel mentions in her report the audit process is ongoing, but we are fairly well through it. We did hear from our auditors about 2 weeks ago that they were starting to draft the financial statement, And so we take that as a sign that they're making pretty good progress. I haven't been asked for documents for quite a while. And so we do hope that the audit is going to be done in a quite timely fashion this year. Ideally, we'll have the audit in hand, at least in draft form, before we are coming to you with draft budgets. So we're looking forward to that. About the only other comment I have is the community development block grant has been closed off. I sent the closing document today, so that grant is over and done. It's nice to have that one put to bed. And in terms of senior meals, we are continuing to let the state know that the approximately 40% cut in funding, along with about a 20 to 25% increase in participation, is making our funding for FY25 look challenging if we don't see a turnaround. But we do anticipate that we should be okay for FY24. I have not heard anything about FY25 yet about expected funding levels. But as I said, we are continuing to make a lot of noise and let them know that we really do need to see those funds restored if we're not going to have some sort of cut in service. And with that, I am available for questions.
Okay, thank you, Jan. Appreciate all the information. We'll go ahead and open it up to council for any questions or comments for the finance officer.
If I may, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go ahead,
Did
Ashley.
you say that for the dock that you didn't have the ferry schedule yet to look at the rest of the year?
That's correct. So far, the ferry schedule is posted through April, and they show
They
ferries.
did post
Oh, they
it.
did.
Yes, it was just
Okay.
the other day. And if
Okay.
my mind serves me right, I think the first ferry is gonna be like May 5th, and it looked like we get
Okay.
the Tuesday 3 days a week all summer.
Well,
is what
that
it
is good
like.
news.
So
That'll make planning a
I
lot
didn't-
easier.
I had
So
been
thank
looking
you.
at it myself, but I don't remember how I figured out it was up there. But yeah, it's just the other
Okay.
day. So
Well, thank you. Thank you for that.
you're welcome.
Anyone else on council with any questions for Jan?
If I could ask real quick, Mr. Mayor, Jan, do you have off the top of your head what our number increase for senior meals is looking at right now? I don't know if we've shared that publicly. If not percentage, just about our average participants per serving.
Well, our average is definitely seasonal. But I would say if I looked back about 2 or 3 years ago, in the summertime, I would expect on a given day to see between 20 and 24 participants. And in the wintertime, it'd be more like 16 to 18. And right now in the winter, we're seeing numbers more between 24 and 30 on a given day. And in the summertime, we were seeing numbers quite a bit higher. And I think there's a number of reasons for that, and I won't go into them, but I will just say we've had some really positive feedbacks on some of the changes that our cook staff has made. And so, yeah, when I ran the numbers last, it seemed like about a 20% increase in participation, 40% cuts in funding. And of course, that's not factoring in the increases in costs for the groceries and so on, just due to inflation. And so we're delighted to see the increased participation, and we want people to come to the meals. Having an increased grocery cost is a good problem to have because of the increased participation, but it does make our funding a little more challenging, and especially with the cut that happened a couple of years to the state program. So that's why we're continuing to advocate to have that funding restored.
Okay, thank you, Jan. Yeah, appreciate you asking that question and clarifying obviously there's an increase in need or usage, and with the combined decrease in funding, that's not a good situation. So definitely not sustainable going forward. Okay, any other additional comments, questions for Jan? Okay, sounds good, Jan. Thank you. Appreciate your report, and thanks for sharing a little time with us this evening.
Thank you.
Okay, looks like we got Harbor Master up next.
Yes, and she shared with me that she had something coming up and is not able to attend last minute, so
Okay.
apologize for that. But if you have any questions, we can definitely share them back with her.
Okay, and her report is on page 15. Anyone from council have any questions or comments on the harbor master's report? Okay, yeah, it's all pretty straightforward on here. Pretty detailed. I see the next one we have is Public Works, and I see Jordan's on the line.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, it's Jordan. You guys hear me?
Yep, we got you, Jordan.
Yeah, I forgot my copy of the report. But yeah, the cold weather's got us in Public Works. We're thinking about ice all the time, and road maintenance is down to the state guy when it's always icy. We've had to go out a couple times and make some special sanding trips and whatnot. But yeah, it's been kind of a cold stretch of weather, and Will's been keeping things put together in the multi-purpose building for them, working on some of the undone projects in there. And yeah, we got the part for the old grader in, and next few days we're going to try to get that put back together. And Radzy's working on getting scheduled for the wastewater collection or not, and treatment. And next, I think it's in March. Maybe it's February. Either way, it's good to have him going to go up and try that training for us. And yeah, and been a whole lot on the list there. There's the Dillon Crew's kind of making movement and thinking about it, putting the replacing awning material and purlings, but I figure as long as there's any amount of snow or cold weather on that anywhere on that roof, that project's going to probably get deferred till the weather improves, which is understandable. So they can gather their materials and work on layout and all that stuff. So hopefully when the weather is right, they can put it up. Any questions?
Any questions, comments?
I have a question. So I'm always out of the loop on stuff. I was wondering over by the pump station towards Inside Beach. I think it's like by Miller's hall out there. Was there a broken main, or is that just the water like melt off happening there? It was like coned off there for a while. Is it just wet because
there's typically a lot of groundwater that comes out there, and it's hard to tell if it's if that's groundwater is channeling out of the hole that's in the culvert. There's a culvert there that has a hole in it, and if the water's channeling up through the road right there, or if there's a water leak. We haven't listened, but the water usage really isn't up in that area or in town overall to really speak of, and we're thinking it's groundwater, but we honestly haven't gone over there and listened to it either. You know, the water, there's a lot of groundwater in that area, and typically it stays kind of over in the driveway to Mike Miller's shop. And it seems like this year it kind of channeled on into the center of the road, and it made a huge pit, and it's a mess, but at the same time we haven't gone and listened either, because it kind of comes and goes, and it doesn't really, the water flow there doesn't really match the usage. So
yeah, I was just wondering. I know that's always icy over there and stuff. It surprised me one night.
Yeah,
stepped in that puddle. And then it was like, Yeah, and then it was like coned off, and I was like, oh, maybe I just didn't know. Anyways, thank
Yeah.
you.
There's like 1.5 feet of ice built up right there.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't been walking in the last like 10 days because stuff. But
All right, thanks for clarifying that. Jordan, I had one quick question on the old grader parts. Were you able to find some new parts or some used parts somewhere to fix that hub assembly there, or what's the story on that? Just curious.
A little bit of a story. I ordered the parts from Portland Tractor, and they kind of pride themselves in used parts. And I called the guy and by part number, and he said I was looking for a spindle, and I guess I was under the impression that all the parts coming from them were used. And he goes, "Oh yeah, I got one on the shelf. It's $950." And okay, and do you guarantee it doesn't have a crack in it? And he says, "Oh yeah, I don't have a crack in it." And we shipped it up here, and I just figured, well, heck, that it was a used spindle. I even looked at the place on Google Earth, and here's this huge yard full of parted out machines, and so I was quite convinced that we were getting a used part. And the box came, and it was a brand new part. And so then, of course, we were short the wheel bolts and stuff like that, because the hub, the spindle that came was a bolt style hub, not a stud style hub. And anyways, we've been slow to put it together, and other things have been prioritized. But yeah, it's a brand new part. It's not a Caterpillar part. I think it's Chinesium, but it is new, and it was at $950. It kind of, the shoe fits, so we're going with it. We just gotta try to get her together without any other fitment issues.
All right, sounds good. I was just
I got a
curious.
question now.
I knew you would, John.
No, it's positive. Were you able to find new wheel studs for that?
Yeah, we bought new wheel bolts. We
Okay,
bought
okay.
cat wheel bolts and washers and all that.
Okay, that's all I want to know. Great,
It was
thanks.
definitely wasn't going to salvage the originals and all that.
Right.
And so but we got new, and
I just wanted to make sure
bad.
you were. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you're changing those studs.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else from council? Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Jordan. Appreciate the update tonight.
All right. Have a good evening.
Okay, you too. All right, that concludes our administrative reports here from the city staff this evening. Take us down into legislation for tonight. Item K, public hearings, we have none. Item L, unfinished business, we have none. Item M, new business. M1, resolution 24-25, a resolution of the city council of the city of Seldovia, Alaska, requesting the state of Alaska make a meaningful and timely increase to the base student allocation for public schools. This is found on page 19, was originally sponsored by Rojas, and obviously with the update that we got from Representative Vance, you hear a little bit about what's going on that. And then yeah, I'll let the city staff speak to this, and then we can get into a little bit of discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this resolution a similar one was passed by the Kenai Peninsula Borough and sent to all the cities and asked to submit a similar resolution in support for the increase to the student base allocation for public schools. This particular resolution asked for support of the increase from the amount that the Senate had put into their bill originally at 305, and I'm looking for the amount, increasing it to $6,640 per student, which is what the Alaska State Senate had forwarded to the House. So that would be a little bit more than what is in that current bill that Representative Vance spoke about coming to the floor.
Just to clarify that, she said that the bill that the House is debating right now, that was a Senate bill, correct?
Correct. So just for reference it's Senate Bill 140, and it originally was a broadband for internet school bill that was sent over from the Senate. The Senate had also a bill for the BSA that increased it to the amount that's in this resolution. However, in the House Finance Committee, it morphed, and that Senate bill, they added the base student allocation increase into that bill, which then moved to the House Rules Committee, where it got taken and all those other pieces of that were added to it. And the BSA was reduced to that $300 increase.
The 300 where it's currently sitting right now.
300. So currently it is $5,960. And the current bill that came out of House Rules that would be forwarded to the floor on Wednesday that Representative Vance mentioned is that substitute for Senate Bill 140. And that would have a $300 increase to this 5,960. So it would end up being 6,260. My math right?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Somewhere in there. Rather than the 6,640 that the Senate had requested. So this resolution is in support of that full request from the state Senate.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and open it up for discussion on resolution 24-25.
I don't have any issues with it. I'm just afraid it's going to fall short of what we really need to solve our problems, and to be able to retain teachers and have quality teachers in Alaska, especially in these rural, remote communities.
Yeah, I think one thing too, when you look at the, with how long it's been since an increase to the BSA itself. I mean, I think where they're, obviously they're not looking, the BSA increase itself is not the answer to, fixing everything. It's not the solution by itself. So there's a lot more pieces that come into play, as we've heard, and everyone knows. So I don't know if the 300 will, if that's going to stay, if there's going to be additional amendments. Certainly the idea behind this resolution, when you read the final, now therefore be it resolved, I think the intention here is to basically get some sort of meaningful increase to the BSA, and then to have some sort of, inflationary proofing year to year as we go forward. So we can see what inflation's done to everything in our daily lives. And, $1 3 years ago is not the same as it was $1 today. So let alone 10 years ago. So yeah, I'll definitely be in support as written. Vivian also submitted in lay down her comments, and she supports it as written as well. So any additional comments from anyone on council?
Yeah, just one more thing. Mr.
Yeah,
Mayor.
absolutely.
So just for reference, the last BSA increase was in 2017 in the formula. And since then, there has been kind of one-time year by year annual increases that kind of keep getting pushed forward to the legislative.
But that doesn't help the school district.
It doesn't help the
we don't
school
know
district,
what we're
like,
gonna
plan
get
for the future.
allocated to us
Yeah.
till we're midstream, so they don't know how they can help, who they're giving money to, where the money's going.
Mhm.
Like that doesn't help the school district plan ahead. I mean, sorry, I don't know why I'm getting upset with you.
Yeah, the biggest thing now for the Kenai Peninsula Borough, obviously, they're looking at a $13 million shortfall. They're funded up to the cap right now. So we've obviously got, what that means is we're going to have some cuts. We're going to have some cuts to programs. We're going to have higher student teacher ratios. It's going to not be good. So without some sort of fix somewhere along the line, there's going to continue to be pain until this is solved. So, and I don't think this is, obviously not only just our district. I think it's the majority of districts around the state. So everyone's suffering right now. All right, we'll go ahead and we'll open it up to the public. If there's anyone that's either signed up or anyone in person that would like to comment. Yeah, I think, go ahead, Liz.
We don't have anybody signed up.
No one signed up? Okay. Yeah, I think it's clear you're getting a firsthand. We do appreciate you coming in and helping our situation here. Yeah, we've got some carnage going on here in town and, we need to get it fixed. So, we've got a lot of kids out of school right now and it's super unfortunate. And, you know, yeah, we need to turn this around and make
Yeah.
things positive and get a plan here. So.
If you ever want to submit an informed comment, we would happily shoehorn that forward. Anytime we're here to make as much noise as we possibly can to get the support that our campus and our students need. So
Yeah, and hopefully, along what Harmony's saying too, hopefully, by the end of the year when things have wrapped up, you'll have a good understanding and idea of, maybe you can give us some additional input on what you see up there as the, systemic problems. There's probably not a lot of secrets up there, but there's probably a few, observations you're going to be able to make and help with. So that'd be much, much appreciated. So. Okay, that's it from the public. We'll bring it back to council for final action and we'll look for motion.
I would like to move to approve motion 24-25 as read. Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve resolution 24-25 by Peyton with a second by Keithley. Any further discussion on resolution 24-25 before we vote? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the approval of resolution 24-25. All those in favor, Langbart,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Swick,
Aye.
Peyton,
Aye.
Keithley. Okay, motion passes with 5 in the affirmative and 1 absent. Okay, we'll go ahead and on to the next item, item M2, resolution 24-26, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Seldovia, Alaska, expressing support for the Homer Harbor expansion general investigation study. This is found on page 27, and we'll go ahead and turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this came about in discussion with the City of Homer. They requested as our partners in a community that's that has a significant, the Port of Homer has a significant impact on our community. If we would be willing to write a resolution expressing support for the study. This isn't for the whole project. We're doing bite-sized pieces here. A similar resolution was passed by the Kenai Peninsula Borough, where a lot of this language comes from, but we did include in in the beginning that the Homer's Port and Harbor is a regional port and community hub, which is critically important to those living in the city of Seldovia. And then you'll see that the crux of the request is that the city of Homer did originally that they had an initial cost for the project, and as we know, things have been changing and increasing. And after reaching the study's alternatives and measures milestone with the USACE, the project development team updated the cost, or they updated the scope with 2 additional activities, and then increased the cost at an additional $1,154,093. Since then, the city of Homer's put up, I think they did a cost share for half of it, and now this is an additional half of the half, and they're requesting that the state provide the rest of the match for that study. So you'll find more information in the packet. There's the ordinance from the city of Homer amending their capital budget by appropriating funds in the amount of the half of the match from the half, so a quarter. And then a resolution stating their intent to fund 25% of the updated general investigation cost. And then the ordinance from the Kenai Peninsula Borough to follow. So this resolution is just expressing support for that match from the state. And they'll be able to use it with a packet along with the Kenai Peninsula Borough and their documents to say, hey, we have the support for this project. Please help fund it.
Thank you. Yep, and that amount they're looking for from the state is the additional, which is the same as the match, is $288,523. So, yeah, I'll just give my 2 cents. Yeah, obviously I do support this. I mean, this has been they've been working on this for a long time. Homer's been busting out of the seams for many, many years, just like most of the coastal communities, Homer, Seward. So the Kodiak, they've all been expanding. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast here, around all of the coastal harbors, in Alaska here. Obviously, we're impacted greatly on what happens in Homer. If they're doing well, generally we're going to get the spin off of that, and it's going to impact our community, our business. So I'll definitely be in support. There's additional factors. I mean, anyone that's got a boat's been in and out of that harbor. It's an absolute zoo in the summertime. Many safety issues to consider in and out of that. I mean, you've got 120-foot vessels and 15-foot vessels all trying, stacked up, entering and exiting the harbor at the same time, and it can be a little scary coming through there. So, yep, I think they're looking to improve a lot of these the safety features of the harbor, getting some of these user groups maybe a little bit more separated, making it a little more appropriate for the bigger boats to have a bigger entrance and a little, more access that makes sense. So right now, this is the study piece. I'm certainly I'll be supportive of this, and hopefully they get a reasonable finding when it's all said and done. So that's all I have. Anyone else care to comment? Ashley?
I'm just gonna agree with you, Mr. Mayor. That was one of the most surprising things after moving here. It was one of our first grocery runs over in the springtime, taking our boat over, and I ran up to the harbor master's office to ask what we do because there was nowhere to go, but I had groceries I had to pick up, and they said, you just tie off to somebody. And we grew up in coastal communities. And
3 or 4 deep.
I said, excuse me, you want me to tie to somebody else's boat? I said, what if they have to leave? Well, they're going to move your boat. And we just were like, wow, this is like, because ours is our, business. I'm like, insurance, people on your stuff, like stepping over, moving things. It's definitely, there's a lot of safety and for that reason of needing to have the space, it is tough when you go over and there's nowhere to go. So, yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else? Any additional comments on resolution 24-26? Okay, we'll go to the public. Did we have anyone signed up to speak?
No, Mr. Mayor, we do not.
Or anyone in chambers wishes to speak? Okay, sounds good. We'll go ahead and bring resolution 24-26 back to council, and we'll look for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 24-26 as read.
I'll second that.
There you go.
Okay, we have a motion by Kennedy to approve resolution 24-26. Was that Jen that seconded that, or Meg?
That was Councilmember Langbart.
Okay, and with a second by Councilmember Langbart. Any further discussion on resolution 24-26 before we vote? Okay, hearing none, other than I hear water drinkers on both sides of me. All right, we'll go ahead. At this time, with no further discussion, we'll go ahead and vote on the approval of resolution 24-26. All those in favor, Langbart,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Swick,
Aye.
Peyton,
Aye.
and Keithley.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes with 5 in the affirmative and 1 absent. Thank you, everyone, for the discussion on that. And our last item for action tonight is the see, item M3, and this is going to be found on page 37. This will be the HDR draft field inspection drainage map memorandum, and we'll go ahead and let the city manager get us up to speed on this. Again, page 37.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought you guys would like to see this memo of the work that's been done so far. It will go to the ADEC after they receive back our comments and notes. I have thoroughly reviewed it and already provided some notes of some few spelling errors and questions that I had. But I thought that this was a really, they just did a stand-up job, and it'd be, I mean, I'm sorry, I just totally blanked what I was going to say there. I thought that they did a great job, and the council feedback and public feedback would be appreciated in this stage of the process before it goes to the ADEC. So providing it here, even though this isn't the drainage map, it's not anywhere near the final document. At this point, it's just what they've done to date. So if you look at page 37, I won't go through the whole thing, but it has the introduction and objectives. It talks about the community input, and then goes in through their field inspection overview. Pretty detailed information on what they saw pertaining to our existing system. And then I wanted to point out on page 65 of the packet, 29 of their report, they do have a list of preliminary recommendations. There's some general preliminary recommendations and then site-specific recommendations based on those initial observations. They will be coming back this summer to do more field work, and then they'll build off of these site-specific preliminary recommendations, and that will come back in the overall stormwater management plan as recommendations to move forward. So if you guys have any feedback, you can let me know. I told them I'd give you guys till Friday in case there's something that comes up outside of this meeting, and then I can forward that on to HDR, and they'll then send it to ADEC. I did want to note one interesting thing that, well, two, we've heard from our public works operator that there's a lot of water, and it was discussed tonight in the Vista area. And they did find a culvert in that area, and there's a lot, I mean, they did find a huge, significant amount of runoff that's coming through that culvert. And it seems like it has a lot of iron. It's pretty orange, but there's a lot of water moving through that area. And we have noted, and they noted in the report, that there's need or intent to further investigate that surface water in the area, because we have seen an observation that it is corroding our pipes. So when they've had to do groundwork over there, they can definitely see damage that it looks like is occurring because of this runoff water. So I don't know how it'll be addressed, but it was pointed out in there. Another one that came about, which is not directly related to the study, but is pointed out for us to look into in the future, is the condition of Susan Lake. And that we've seen it diminish over years, and we do have a weir there. And so it could be beneficial to hire somebody to do an investigation of that area and how it's operated, that weir's operated, and what that impact is on the lake.
It's probably all the lily pads choking the whole system out.
Yeah, I have questions. What do you mean?
Huh?
What's your point? Where are you getting at?
The
What
lake?
about the weir? What about the lake?
Oh, just to make sure that we're managing it correctly, that the weir is open at an appropriate level, and we're not.
Who's opening it?
Well, there have been times where the city has had to go and adjust it. Doesn't
Okay.
happen very often, but it
I was
can.
gonna say it's
Yeah.
not open very often.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I've done this study so many times. I'm annoyed with myself for not having it memorized, but it's on the totally appropriate trajectory for the age of that lake system. I don't know how much money we want to put into studying that when we have a lot of geologists local are like doing pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, the weir is on the sluice side, right?
Correct.
How often are we opening it? Just like in the spring or like fall rains?
You know, I've only heard of it like once or twice over my tenure at the city. It's
I know,
not
yeah.
very often. It did come up during a stakeholder meeting
Mhm.
that was held with an organization within the community. And so
Mhm.
it's something to note that
Mhm.
potentially we could look into that in the future.
That's what I figured. And I would just like to put out there that that is a thoroughly documented and healthy ecosystem as it exists. The weir is there for legitimate reasons and operates as it should, historically speaking. I don't know that we need to put a lot of public time and funds towards researching things. We can do it in-house, great. But as far as like paying somebody to come do a bunch of work that they're just going to tell us what we already know, I'm against it.
Thank you. Would you like me to provide that comment back to HDR?
Sure. Yeah, I think that I could reach out to people that I know. I don't want to put anybody on the spot. I'm not going to say names, but I can reach out and get that information and see if they're willing to put forward a letter of recommendation on the trajectory of that lake as it exists as a body of water. And then as far as the weir operates, I only know about the weir operation just as a resident, somebody who participates in that conversation. I've never touched it. So I can't provide legal comments on that part. But as far as the ecosystem and how that water system, that water level, it is the oil and gas, but that's their job.
Thank you.
Don't need to blow it when I got about the lake, Mayor.
Yes, I do. All right. Well, yeah, and I don't know if they had any background, on the Lake Susan system, but yeah, if there's something you can provide, that'd be great. Yeah, no, that'd be worthwhile.
Great. And then other than that, you'll find the public comments that were provided by survey on page 73 of the packet. And so that was great feedback to receive. And then initial meeting minutes and mapping that they've been working on towards the back of the packet.
Okay, and I saw a couple things about, looking for the future about acquiring some additional easement space for snow storage areas, et cetera, and or runoff places for runoff. And then it looks like a lot of maintenance, just generalized maintenance, keeping the curbs clean, the gutter clean, implementing some sediment catch devices, if you will. So
yeah, and if I can point out one more thing that brought to mind is one of the stakeholders was Tyler Tucker with the state DOT shop at the airport. And that question did come up on Main Street, those stormwater, because they have, I guess in the past, previously, he recalled the state's come in and cleaned out some of those stormwater drains. So we are looking into further just where that management piece lies and that infrastructure on Main Street being a DOT right away.
yeah, and I can see, going back to the maintenance piece, I can see, but all of our side streets with, that there's collectors on them. And then there's also all the gutter. There's a lot of that gutter I've noticed over the years. There's, anywhere from 1 inch to 6 inches of sludge that, and I think it had actually been cleaned. Pieces of that had been cleaned in the last year or two, I noticed, but there's still a long way to go on that.
Did you also notice in the report that a lot of them are not in the low area?
Yeah.
Found that interesting.
Any other questions, comments on the report where it stands right now? Yeah, it's long, it's lengthy. Maybe take another turn through it. And then if you guys have any comments, try to get those to Heidi by Friday so she can get those submitted in. That would be great. Just email those to you.
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you, Mr. Harris.
Okay.
I do have a layman's question.
Sure.
So down right by Vivian, by the fisher there, the fisherman fish, that gets so plugged. So, anytime we have any rain, you get that gradient and then it flattens out. is there anything that could be done for, I don't even know what that would look like. Would you add a second opening in order to allow for more escapement as ice melts, instead of like having that exchange where it's like melting underneath and frozen on top, and then it, you know what I mean?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up, and I can bring that back by HDR that we're curious on looking into that one, their next field investigation. I know that they are looking into water runoff on Bay Street
Right.
and a few other areas in town shoreline. Catchmack Street is has some particular issues with that, and how to better manage stormwater escapement in the future. Yes, thank you.
I didn't know. I've always wondered, and I was excited to see what they would say about it.
Great feedback.
Okay, thank you. All right, appreciate you putting that on there, getting that out in front of us. If there'll be no action on that one for tonight. Other than let's get something back to Heidi if anyone's got any